Wesley, please don't eat the gym towels again, Archer Owens groaned as he sprinted toward his 3-year-old, who had somehow scaled the front desk and was now chewing on the corner of a folded white towel like it was cotton candy. Wesley giggled and dropped the towel, his curls bouncing as his dad scooped him up. "I was hungry, Daddy. I gave you a banana 5 minutes ago." "That banana was boring." Archer sighed and looked at the clock. 2 minutes until his shift started. He kissed Wesley's cheek, set him down behind the front desk with his coloring book, and turned toward the weight floor, his faded black staff shirt clinging to his back from the summer heat. He didn't usually work Saturdays, but his manager begged him to cover, and he needed the extra cash badly. Rent was due in 4 days, and the daycare bill had already eaten half his check. He didn't notice her walk in at first. Not until the woman in the black leggings and low ponytail stepped onto the mat near the free weights and started doing perfect push-ups like she was training for the Olympics. "Excuse me," she waved. "Do you know where the kettlebells are?" Archer blinked. "Yeah, this way." He led her to the back of the room, trying not to stare. She had this calm confidence about her, like she belonged here, even though he'd never seen her before and he knew every regular in this place. She didn't wear flashy brands or carry a designer bag, but there was something polished about her. Her eyes were sharp. Her voice had that crisp, educated tone. Still, she smiled at him like he was just another guy, not the sweaty trainer with a toddler and bills stacked like Jenga blocks. "I'm Vanessa," she said, extending her hand. "Archer." He shook it, firm grip, warm skin, no ring. Vanessa tilted her head. "You do personal training?" "I sub sometimes. Today's one of those days." "Good, train me." Archer hesitated. "You sure? I mean, I'm not one of those celebrity trainers that charges $100 an hour." Vanessa grinned. "Perfect. I'm not one of those celebrities who pays that." She wasn't joking. For the next hour, she took every correction he gave like she wanted to master it. Archer didn't know why she stood out so much, but she did. Maybe it was how she didn't look at her phone once. Maybe it was how she actually listened, even when other people usually treated him like background noise. Wesley came running over halfway through. "Daddy, I colored a purple dinosaur." Vanessa crouched beside him. "That's amazing. What's his name?" "Mr. Roar, wanna see my toy car?" While Wesley showed her the car, Archer watched in disbelief. His son hated strangers. But here he was, sitting on the rubber gym mat beside a woman he just met, chatting like she was his best friend. "I think he likes you," Archer said. Vanessa smiled, brushing a curl from Wesley's forehead. "He's got good taste." After the session, she walked to the front desk with him and pulled out a small leather wallet. "How much?" Archer hesitated, then said, "50." She pulled out $100 bill and handed it to him. "I don't have change," he said quickly. "I didn't ask for any." She winked and turned toward the door. "I'll see you Monday." "Wait, Monday. I want another session." Before he could respond, she was gone. Wesley tugged on his pant leg. "She's pretty. You should marry her." Archer laughed. "You think can just marry someone after one workout?" Wesley nodded. "Yes." He shook his head, amused, but something about the way she walked out like she knew she'd be back stuck with him. By the time Monday rolled around, Archer had convinced himself she wouldn't show. But there she was at 10 sharp, ponytail tighter this time, smile just as warm. "Ready to sweat?" she asked. They trained every day that week, then the next and the next. She never mentioned what she did for work, and Archer never asked. She'd disappear right after the sessions, sometimes after chatting with Wesley for 5 minutes, sometimes with a quick wave. But she kept coming back, and every time he looked forward to it a little more. 3 weeks in, she brought Wesley a remote control fire truck. "I saw it in a window, thought of him. Archer stared at the box in her hands. You didn't have to. I wanted to. That night, after Wesley was asleep, Archer sat at the kitchen table, staring at the $100 bills she'd handed him each day. He hadn't cashed them yet, didn't want to. Something about them felt different, like they weren't just money. They were her. He was falling. Hard. And he had no idea who she really was. Until the night she didn't show up. He waited an hour, texted the gym manager nothing, called the front desk no sign of her. Then, the next morning, an article popped up on the gym's lobby TV. Archer froze. Vanessa Hathaway, founder of Hathaway Capital, donates $10 million to children's hospitals across the state. He stared at the screen. It was her. Same ponytail, same eyes. Millionaire. His gut twisted. She trained with him every day for over a month and never mentioned it, not once. He clenched his jaw and turned off the TV. She'd lied. Or maybe just left out the truth. Either way, he couldn't shake the feeling that the woman he thought he was falling for was someone completely different. Archer pulled off his staff shirt the moment his shift ended and tossed it into his locker. The gym was unusually quiet for a Thursday evening, the kind of quiet that made everything feel heavier. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead, and the usual clang of weights was absent. He didn't like it. Too many thoughts could sneak in when the world went still. He zipped up his hoodie and walked out into the front lobby where Wesley was sitting behind the counter, happily stacking protein bar boxes. The kid had been good all day, no climbing, no towel chewing, just quiet humming and the occasional question about dinosaurs. Hey buddy, Archer said, crouching down beside him. Want to go grab dinner? Wesley looked up. Can we get pancakes? Even though it's dark out. Pancakes don't care about the sun. Archer laughed under his breath. Fair enough. He scooped Wesley up, nodded goodbye to the closing staff, and stepped out into the warm night air. The city buzzed around them, cars honking, crosswalks blinking, someone playing saxophone near the corner deli. Archer didn't notice any of it. His mind was stuck on the screen from earlier. The name, the headline, that image frozen in his head. Vanessa Hathaway. The woman who'd been training with him every morning. The one who'd brought his son a fire truck for no reason. The one who'd never once hinted at who she really was. He walked faster. They reached the small diner near their apartment, the kind with sticky menus and red vinyl booths. Archer ordered banana pancakes for Wesley and black coffee for himself. He wasn't hungry. Wesley poured syrup like it was a science experiment. When's Miss Vanessa coming back? Archer froze. I don't know. Maybe she got lost. Maybe Or maybe she had to go to the moon. Archer forced a smile. Could be. But he knew better. She hadn't gotten lost, and she definitely wasn't on the moon. She just hadn't told him the truth. And now that he knew it, everything felt different. The next morning, he didn't expect to see her, but there she was. Standing by the water cooler, dressed in a navy tank top and charcoal leggings, her hair pulled back into a braid this time. Her expression was unreadable. Archer paused mid-step, heart slamming into his ribs. She turned, eyes meeting his. Hey, she said softly, can we talk? He didn't answer right away, just nodded and led her to the back room, where staff sometimes took breaks. The air inside smelled faintly of eucalyptus and chalk. She closed the door behind them. You saw it, didn't you? She asked. He crossed his arms. The news, yeah. I was going to tell you. When? I don't know, kept putting it off, and then, I didn't want to ruin this. This, he repeated. What is this, Vanessa? She looked down at her hands, fingers twisting together. I came to that gym wanting to disappear, just for an hour a day. No press, no board meetings, no investors, just sweat and silence. And then you showed up and you weren't impressed or intimidated. You just treated me like me. I treated you like you were honest. I never lied. You never told the truth either. I wanted to, she said quickly, but I didn't want you to look at me differently. I didn't want Wesley to stop trusting me. Archer leaned against the wall, jaw tightening. So what now? You vanish again. No, she said. Came back because I don't want to disappear anymore. He looked at her, searching for something guilt, maybe, or regret. But all he saw was sincerity. It made everything more complicated. You gave me over $1,000, he said quietly. That's more than I make in 2 weeks. I didn't do it to throw money at you. I did it because I saw how hard you work, because you never asked for anything. Archer's voice lowered. I don't want a handout. I know. They stood in silence. I didn't expect to care this much, she admitted, but I do, about you, about Wesley. I care. He didn't respond. He couldn't, not with every part of him tangled in conflict. A woman like her didn't belong in his world, but somehow she'd become the best part of it. She took a step forward. If you want me to leave, I will. But if there's any chance you feel something too, then tell me. Because I'm not walking away unless you make me. Archer looked away. I need time, he said finally. Vanessa nodded. Then take it, I'll wait. She left without another word. By the time his shift ended, Archer still didn't know what to feel. Wesley was asleep in the back office, curled up with his toy fire truck. Archer carried him out into the street, the city's heartbeat pulsing under his feet. He stopped at the corner, watching a sleek black car pull up across the street. Vanessa stepped out, dressed in a tailored blazer, heels clicking on the sidewalk. A man in a suit held a folder out to her, and she signed it without hesitation. Then she turned and looked across the street. Her eyes locked with his. She didn't wave, didn't smile. Neither did he. But something passed between them anyway. Something real. He didn't know what came next. But for the first time in a long time, he wanted to find out. Archer stood at the edge of the rooftop terrace, the city sprawling beneath him in a maze of lights and shadow. He hadn't planned to come, but the invitation had arrived that morning. A sleek navy envelope slipped under the gym's office door, addressed only with his name. Vanessa's handwriting. No return address. Just a time, a place, and nothing else. The building was taller than any he'd ever set foot in. The doorman didn't question him, just nodded like he'd been expected. Now, standing beneath a canopy of amber string lights and polished steel beams, Archer felt like an intruder. The terrace had been transformed into something out of a high society gala. Waiters in white jackets moved through clusters of sharply dressed guests holding crystal glasses, and a string quartet played somewhere behind a wall of ivy. He adjusted the collar of his one decent button down and scanned the crowd. He didn't see her. A woman approached with a tray of champagne. Archer shook his head. I'm good. She smiled politely and disappeared. He stayed rooted to the edge, unsure why he hadn't turned around the moment he stepped off the elevator. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was something else. Thought you might not come. He turned. Vanessa stood a few steps behind him, her dress a deep slate blue, simple and elegant, her hair swept into a low twist. She looked nothing like the woman who used to deadlift beside him at sunrise, and yet somehow exactly the same. I almost didn't, he said. Why did you? I don't really know, Archer admitted. Youth. I needed you to see this part of me, the part I kept hidden. He looked around. So this is your world. It's a piece of it, she said. Not the part I live in because I love it, The part I live in because I built it. He glanced back at her. Why invite me now? Because couldn't stop thinking about what you said, that you needed time, and I realized I've spent so long keeping my life compartmentalized, I didn't know how to let someone in, but I want to. I want to figure out what it looks like, with you in it. He exhaled slowly. I don't belong here. Neither do I most days. That's easy to say when the champagne has your name on it. Vanessa stepped closer. It's not about the champagne, or the view, or the people asking for donations. It's about me standing here, scared out of my mind because I'm not used to chasing someone who has every reason to walk away. Archer tilted his head. You're scared. Yes, she said, because I can negotiate with billionaires and outmaneuver corporate sharks, but can't predict how you'll look at me tomorrow. And that matters more than any deal I've closed. He studied her. Wesley's with our neighbor tonight. I told her I might be late. Vanessa blinked. You plan to stay. I didn't know what I was walking into, but I figured if you were brave enough to ask me to see you this way, I could at least show up. She stepped beside him, not touching, just close enough that he could feel her presence. I didn't fall for your money, he said after a long pause. I fell for the way you talk to my son, the way you listen when no one else does, but I'm not going to compete with private jets and penthouses. I don't want you to, she said. I want someone who looks at me the same way on a gym mat or a rooftop, someone who doesn't care if I drive a Bentley or a bicycle. He looked at her. What happens when your world collides with mine? I'm hoping we make something new. The music shifted behind them, something slower, more intimate. A few guests began to dance near the center of the terrace, framed by lanterns and the glow of the skyline. Vanessa held out her hand. Dance with me. Archer hesitated. I don't know how to waltz, he warned. Good, she said, neither do I. He took her hand. Her fingers curled around his, and they stepped into the soft rhythm of the music. She leaned in just enough that he could feel the warmth of her breath against his neck. The rest of the party faded. The string quartet, the polished laughter, the swish of chiffon. It all blurred. You really want to try this? He asked, voice low. I don't want to try, she said. I want to choose it, choose you. He didn't respond, just tightened his arm around her waist and rested his forehead against hers. When the song ended, she didn't move. Neither did he. A waiter approached with a silver tray. Miss Hathaway, they're ready to begin the presentation. Vanessa looked at Archer. He nodded. Go. She turned to the waiter. Tell them I'll be there in 10 minutes. The waiter hesitated, then bowed slightly and left. Vanessa reached into her clutch, pulled out a small velvet box, and pressed it into Archer's palm. What's this? Open it when you're home. He narrowed his eyes. Is this going to be another fire truck situation? It might be, she said, her smile soft, but it's not for Wesley. She leaned in and kissed his cheek, then stepped away, her heels clicking against the stone as she disappeared into the crowd. Archer looked down at the box. He didn't open it. Not yet. He slipped it into his pocket, turned toward the elevator, and walked into the night with his heart pounding like he'd just run 10 miles uphill. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like he was walking alone. Archer stood at the cracked kitchen counter, Wesley's crayon drawing of a volcano taped unevenly to the fridge behind him. The apartment was quiet except for the low hum of the ceiling fan. Wesley was asleep in the next room, tucked in with his fire truck under one arm and a flashlight gripped in the other like he expected to wake up in a cave. Archer reached into his jacket and pulled out the velvet box Vanessa had given him. He hadn't touched it since the night on the rooftop. His fingers hovered for a second, then flipped it open. Inside was a single brass key on a short silver chain, resting on a folded note. I bought this place the week after I met you. It's empty, no furniture, just sunlight and silence. I didn't know why I bought it then. I do now. You once said you didn't want a handout. This isn't that. This is a door that only opens if you want it to. Vie. He stared at the key. His mind spun in too many directions at once. The note didn't make promises. It didn't beg. It offered, quietly, without expectation. And that made it worse somehow, because it meant the decision was entirely his. The next morning, he dropped Wesley off with Mrs. Karpinski, the retired teacher down the hall who babysat for him when his shifts overlapped. Then he walked. 10 blocks. Then 15. The address on the note led him to a corner building nestled between a florist and a bakery, its brick facade clean, understated. No security gate, just a single polished door. He stepped inside. The apartment was on the top floor. When Archer turned the key, it clicked open without resistance. The air inside smelled faintly of cedar and new paint. Large windows lined the far wall, the glass washed in golden light. The space was wide and open, the kind you could breathe in without hitting drywall. He walked through slowly. No furniture, just hardwood beneath his shoes and the distant murmur of the city below. The sun poured in through the windows, and for a second, he could see it Wesley building towers in the living room, Vanessa curled up on the sofa reading something with too many words on the spine. He closed the door quietly behind him. That night, he waited until Wesley was tucked in, then made a call. "Hello," Vanessa's voice was steady but guarded. "I saw the place," Archer said. "It's beautiful." There was a pause. "You don't owe me anything." "I'm not calling because I feel like I do." "Then why?" "Because I realized something. Keep trying to measure my life against yours, like love has a price tag, and I know it doesn't, but old habits don't die easy." "I don't want you to measure anything, Archer. I just want you beside me, however that looks." He exhaled. "I want that too." The next weekend, she arrived at the gym unannounced, dressed in a windbreaker and jeans, her hair loose for the first time he'd seen. She didn't go to the mat or ask for a session. She sat beside Wesley on the bench near the lockers, helping him assemble a plastic model of a rocket ship. When Archer finished his shift, he found them laughing about how the wings didn't fit. Vanessa looked up. "I thought we could go for a walk." They strolled down to the park. Wesley ran ahead, his rocket ship clutched in one hand, the other dragging Archer's worn gym bag behind him like it was treasure. The air smelled like cut grass and hot pretzels. A jazz trio played on the corner under a striped umbrella. Vanessa nudged Archer's arm. "Can I ask you something?" "Yeah." "What would you do if you didn't have to worry about money?" He blinked, honestly. "That's the point." "I'd open a gym," he said. "Not like the one I work at. A real one, with a kids center and classes for single parents. Sliding scale membership. A place where no one feels like they have to prove they belong." She lit up. "Have you written it down?" "Not since college." "You should." He looked at her. "Why?" "Because I believe in it, and I believe in you." That night, she came over for dinner. Nothing fancy, just grilled cheese and tomato soup. Wesley declared it a feast, and Vanessa called it perfect. After he fell asleep, Archer and Vanessa sat on the floor, backs against the couch, her feet tucked beneath his. He turned toward her. "If I did write the plan, if I tried to make it real, I wouldn't know where to start." "I would," she said, "but only if you let me help. I'm not used to letting people in. I'm not used to being let in." They kissed, slow and certain, no fireworks or music, just the quiet understanding that something had shifted. Weeks passed. Slowly, deliberately, she became part of their rhythm, not a visitor or a benefactor, just someone who showed up, regularly, authentically. She helped Archer map out his dream gym on the kitchen table while Wesley built towers beside them. She introduced him to a friend who owned commercial space in Brooklyn. He started drawing up real estimates, real numbers. She never wrote checks, never handed over money. She offered connections, insight, belief. And then one evening, as the three of them stood in the unfinished space that could one day be his gym, Wesley tugged Vanessa's sleeve. "Are you going to be my mom now?" Archer froze. Vanessa knelt down. "That's a big question." Wesley shrugged. "You already make pancakes better than Daddy." Archer stepped forward, crouched beside them. "What if we figure it out together?" Vanessa's eyes filled. She nodded. 3 months later, the soft opening of the gym was packed, not with investors or press, but with families from the neighborhood. Teachers, kids, people who'd once thought places like that weren't for them. Archer stood near the entrance, watching it all unfold, his name on the glass door behind him. Wesley zipped past wearing a t-shirt that read Junior Trainer. Vanessa leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching him with quiet pride. He walked over. "You were right." "About what?" "About choosing." She smiled. "You chose me back." He took her hand, "And I'm never letting go." They kissed as the sun dipped behind the buildings, laughter echoing through the open doors of a place that hadn't existed until love built it. Together. The gym's grand opening came on a rainy Sunday in May. The kind of slow, steady rain that tapped on the windows like a reminder to notice everything. And Archer did, every single thing. The line stretched down the block. Families in ponchos, teenagers under umbrellas, a pair of older women holding hands and wearing matching rain boots. Balloons arched over the front doors, and a banner hung above the glass, Haven Training and Wellness. Inside, the space buzzed with life. The hardwood floors gleamed. The walls were painted in deep forest green and soft gray tones. The children's area was filled with bean bags, foam mats, and a mural of animals lifting weights Wesley's idea. His voice rang out as he chased 2 other kids around the mats, wearing a laminated name tag he had insisted on making himself. Archer stood near the front desk, adjusting the collar of his navy blazer. It was the first time he'd worn one without a job interview at the end of it. He wasn't nervous, just grounded. Present, the way you feel when something once impossible is now in front of you, breathing and real. Vanessa was across the room, talking with a woman from the community board, nodding as she pointed to the indoor track. She wore a caramel-colored wrap dress and low heels, her hair curled slightly at the ends. She looked like she'd been born in this place, like her presence had always been a piece of its foundation. When she caught Archer's eye, her face lit up with something quiet and unmistakable. She excused herself and walked over. "Come with me," she said, grabbing his hand. He followed her through the back hallway, past the staff office, and up the stairs to a small glass-walled loft that overlooked the main floor. She closed the door behind them. The rain tapped gently on the skylight above. "Needed a minute," she said, breathing out. "Too many questions. Too many people asking if I'm the silent partner." Archer raised an eyebrow. "You're not that silent." "I could be," she teased, "if that means no more being asked about tax codes." He stepped closer. "You okay?" She leaned against the back wall, her voice softer now. "I never thought I'd feel proud like this. Not for a donation, not for an acquisition, but this is different." "It's home," he said. She nodded. "Exactly." They stood in the quiet for a few seconds, the hum of the gym below them, laughter threading up through the vents. Then she pulled something from her bag, a folded stack of papers clipped at the top. She held them out. "What's this?" A grant proposal, Vanessa said, for a second location, in Queens. A community center's closing next spring, and the space is going to sit empty unless someone does something. Archer scanned the first page. You already wrote this. I started at 2 a.m. last week, couldn't sleep. He looked up. You want to do this again? I want us to do it again. He folded the papers and tucked them under his arm. Then let's do it. Vanessa stepped into his space, her hand sliding around his neck. You know what I realized this morning? What? I used to think love was supposed to feel like lightning, like it would strike and burn everything down. And now I know it's more like this. She gestured to the rain above them. Quiet, steady, it stays. He kissed her, slow and sure, the kind of kiss that didn't need to speak louder than the rain. When they came back downstairs, Wesley ran up to them holding a lopsided cupcake. I saved you one, he said proudly. It's banana. I told them you like bananas. You're the best, Archer said, crouching down. Vanessa took the cupcake from Wesley and handed it to Archer. He also told the mayor's wife that you cry during animated movies. Archer looked at his son. Traitor. Wesley grinned, unfazed. You do. Later that night, after the last guest had left, the balloons had been swept into the trash, and the floors mopped clean, Archer stood alone in the gym. He ran his hand along the front desk and looked around the space. Every beam, every dumbbell, every chalkboard sign on the wall, it was all real. Vanessa appeared in the doorway, barefoot now, holding 2 mugs of cocoa. She walked over and handed him one. Wesley's asleep, she said. He passed out mid-sentence. Archer took a sip. What was he saying? He asked if we'd still be doing this when he's a grown-up. What did you say? I told him yes, and that by then he'd be taller than both of us. Archer chuckled, then glanced at her. You ever think about making this official? She tilted her head. You mean paperwork official? I mean vows, rings, the whole thing. Vanessa exhaled slowly. I used to think I wasn't cut out for that I'd be too much or not enough. But then you came along, and you didn't try to fix me or shrink me. You just saw me. I still do. I want that, she whispered. I want us. Then marry me, Archer said, setting his mug down. Here. Right here. She laughed, eyes glinting. We're barefoot, surrounded by kettlebells. Perfect setting. She reached for his hand. Okay. He pulled a thin chain from his pocket, the one with the brass key she'd given him that night on the rooftop. He looped it around her wrist and tightened it gently. This was the start, he said. Let it be the symbol. She looked down at the key, her throat tightening. We don't need an audience. We've got each other. They stood in the center of the gym, the rain still falling outside, and exchanged their vows with no one watching but the shadows on the walls and the echoes of the day behind them. They promised things that weren't about perfection, just about showing up, about choosing each other, every day. And they meant it. Months later, the second location opened. Then a third. Archer's face appeared in a magazine feature titled Strength with Purpose, and Vanessa's name was listed beneath as co-founder and director of strategic vision. But none of it mattered more than the nights they spent curled on the couch, Wesley asleep between them, and the key still looped around Vanessa's wrist. Not because it was expensive, but because it opened the door to everything they'd built together. And they never stopped choosing it.